Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Freres Heureux. It's a new season, it's a new week, a new day, a new chance for me to muck up the intro of the podcast.
As always, every day is a chance for you to muck up the intro
it's
to the
wonderful.
podcast.
One of these days, it's going to be like absolutely flawless.
Yeah,
can't wait.
The last few times, it's been fine.
It's been okay.
I think it's been all right.
A little bit stuttering.
Yeah,
it's okay.
We're humans. We make mistakes.
Yeah, as we should.
Yeah,
because we learn from them. Except
we don't.
We don't. I am, as always, Fraser.
And I am, as always, Ewan.
Yeah. We got that down.
Yeah.
We've definitely got better at that.
Yeah.
We are now back to season 6 of Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
I say back to because I've watched it so many times.
Yeah.
But for those of you that are watching for the first time, we've got some good episodes coming up. Some of the best, arguably.
Some great ones, yeah.
I think there's some very good episodes in this season. It's a bit of a slow start.
Yeah.
It's a bit. The first disc's a bit of a mixed bag.
I'm not big. I mentioned at the end of season 5. I'm really not big on like kind of the first half of season 6.
Yeah,
the first third, roughly, with this whole arc of Frasier being unemployed.
I think that's a shame because I think there's some decent episodes here. In my humble opinion,
I would kind of disagree after rewatching these.
Well, we'll get to it,
yeah,
and that's what this is all about. Discuss and review,
yeah,
and mess up standardized intros.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have any housekeeping for this week.
No,
other than to welcome you to a brand new season.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we should make a bigger deal about the seasons. Maybe give instead of a bonus episode, give like a week break. Get the hype build up, you know?
I don't know, maybe. I
just feel like, because it's just, we kind of treat it as just like one long season of us going through the whole show.
That's what the bonus episodes are for.
I know, just to kind of break it up. Yeah. I don't know. I want people to be hyped.
Yeah.
I want that week off, people to be like, oh, can't wait for the guys to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to hear their thoughts on 20-year-old show.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Well, we love talking about it, so we hope you do enjoy listening to it as well. And without further ado, let's talk about it. We're back with Good Grief, the first episode of season 6, after the cliffhanger of season 5. Frasier and most, if not all, of KCL has been completely sacked. They have been laid off by Jose Martinez, formerly Joe Martin.
Formerly Joe Martin.
Well, formerly Jose Martinez, formerly Joe Martin, now Jose Martinez again.
Yeah.
Has decided to bring KCL back to its Latin roots and turn it into a salsa radio station. I don't know if you would get approval to do that. Do you think, as like station owner?
Because
you've got shareholders and stuff as well.
That's why they have the board of directors, I suppose. But yeah, if you're the owner, does it not kind of just come down to you if you really, really want it really badly?
I guess it's your loss if the money goes south. But yeah, Frasier is struggling. He is treating the loss of his career as a death, as Niles puts it early on in the episode. So he's gradually making his way through the 5 stages of grief, and that's kind of how the episode is structured. Mm-hmm. It's very cleverly interlaced with the title cards mentioning each of the stages of grief.
Yeah,
which add kind of like another level of humor to each of the scenes as well.
There's definitely one joke that I really enjoy that we can talk about. It's like right at the end.
At the end is
the
good,
title cards.
Even the first one, I think.
Oh, so actually, no, yeah. The first
episode
one
opens with Frasier doing an interview for a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, you had a fun fact you wanted to mention about this.
Yes. So there's a bit of it's a bit of a kind of fourth wall breaky reference with the opening, because he's talking about like, it's as if he's taking over from someone on this TV show, and he says, you know, I'm glad that you're welcoming me. I have some big shoes to fill. My predecessor was much beloved, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize this, but that's a reference to the fact that at this point, Frasier was taking over from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
It was in Seinfeld's old time slot. And I don't know if there was controversy around that Frasier was taking over for Seinfeld, but...
Possibly. I mean, different fan bases. There's probably a bit of crossover between
Yeah.
people just watching, like, whatever night, Friday Night Telly or whatever it was. But you'd get some people maybe a bit unhappy about it. So, yeah. But I like that. Now that you know that fact, it kind of makes it a bit more fun. But he does this interview. He's clearly the interviewer is not particularly taken by Frasier, but he's very confident and starts making all these jokes about signing up for the softball team or whatever and things like that. And then there's no laugh track, but it cuts to the title card with just denial. Thus starting his stages of grief. And the whole episode is just him gradually moving through denial to anger, to bargaining, to depression, to acceptance.
Yes.
Is that the order?
Yeah, that's the order.
So there's some really good scenes actually. I think you're going to be quite harsh in this episode. I think you don't like it very much.
I don't like this episode.
But I actually quite like it. I think it's quite funny. I love how kind of off the rails Frasier's gone. He's completely lost his mind after getting fired. So he's writing an opera about the Brownings. Yeah. He's redesigning all of his furniture from scratch. Yeah. What is it? He's
writing a book.
He's writing a book. He throws a big party for all the KCL colleagues that got fired because of him. Yeah. Finds out that they've all lost their job. They've all gotten other jobs since being fired, and he hasn't. So goes nuts on a piñata. Yeah,
kickstarts him into anger.
And that, and then bargaining, he pleads with God, and God tells him that he needs to take better care of his fans.
Because he's a bad celebrity. Oh my God.
So he invites his fan club over, and it's just sort of three weirdos.
Yeah.
One of them played by Fran Kranz, who is probably better recognized from...
Is that Fran Kranz?
Dollhouse and
Cabin in the Woods. And more recently, Julia.
Was
alongside David Hyde
Was
Pierce
he? I didn't realize
and BB
that.
Newworth. Yeah, he plays the like the producer, I guess, who's kind of like at first very reluctant to take on Julia Childs. This isn't a Julia podcast. We always bring it up because it's got Frasier actors in it. But he's really good in that.
He is good,
he kind of starts off as not quite an antagonist, but kind of like a bit of a foil, but then gets on board very quickly. And he's a very lovely character.
Okay. Yeah, I know he did quite a lot of directing and writing recently. I didn't realize he was still acting as much, but no, it's cool.
I really like Fran Kranz.
He's good.
I'm sad now that I didn't recognize him in this because he's so young.
He's very young here.
He must be like 18. Like he looks like a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah, that's him. There you go.
Yeah,
giving you some fun facts.
I know. I'm now sad that I didn't recognize him because I love Fran Kranz. He's great.
Yeah. But that's a nice little scene that when Frasier realizes that his fan club consists of 3 people, all of which are a bit mad.
Yeah.
And then he hits depression. He puts on a bit of weight. Stopped taking care of himself. He's just not a happy chappy.
Yeah.
And then finally kind of breaks down, lets out all his sadness,
his anguish
in one go, and is finally able to deal with it and accept it all. It's a really I like the episode. I think it's structured really well. I think it's funny how they play off the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
And how they tie it into Frasier being so self-centered that he's treating like losing a job like losing a person, losing a loved member. A loved member?
A love member.
I was going to say family member, and then I changed it like loved one.
Yeah,
a loved one. I like how it shows that as well. It feels believable that Frasier is so narcissistic that he would go through the 5 stages of grief. Egotistical, maybe not narcissistic.
I don't know. I would call it pretty narcissistic.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll take it. And I love the other side of it, how just grounded Niles and Martin and Daphne all are, and Roz as well, in trying to take care of him and sort of baby him almost.
Yeah.
It's pretty tragic that a grown psychiatrist is not in better.
Yeah, he's blind to the fact that he's going through what he is.
And,
you know, refuses to even acknowledge that he might be depressed.
Yeah,
you know,
it's I like it. I think it's not the best season opener, but it's not the worst either. It's quite middle of the road.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not big on it.
No,
I'm not a fan. I enjoy the structure of it. How they're like, oh, we're going to go through the 5 stages of grief, and that's all. It's nice, kind of segmented. Each bit is quite distinct from the next.
Yeah.
You know, but overall, I don't enjoy it. I don't like the. I feel like it's playing quite heavily on like the sort of cringe aspect of, oh look, Frasier's having mental health problems, you know, and like it's just sort of him screaming and crying and losing his mind a bit, and I don't know, I feel weird like laughing at him.
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean. They definitely play up the laughing at him rather than like sort of the clever jokes surrounding the situation. He's very much the butt of the joke throughout the episode, and especially the scene at the end where he actually loses it and starts crying. It's really upsetting to watch.
It is, yeah.
Like it's properly like
he's just
oh my god,
howling and like having a tantrum. Really,
a proper like a full on like sort of panic attack.
And
Breakdown.
it always kind of bothered me how they've basically had an intervention for him.
Yeah,
Martin and Niles and everyone, they've gathered around. They show him this tape of when Frasier was babysitting Alice, Roz's baby, and starts eating the baby food.
Yeah.
And clearly this is like at him at a very low point. And they're really trying to like push him to let his emotions out so that he can grieve and get to acceptance and move on and like kick him out of his depression. Niles then sets him off by saying, "You're not famous anymore," which causes him to start crying. But like They get him to start crying, and then maybe 5 seconds later, they're like, okay, that's it. That's enough now. And they're sort of looking at each other, oh God, how do we get him to stop crying? And it's like, it's been 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's not, they don't quite appreciate
a clearly depressed person starting to let their emotions out. It's going to take more than 5 seconds, you know?
I love when they're trying to get him to stop, and Daphne says, "Now you know my Grammy Moon used to say," and then he absolutely like screeches. Martin turns around and says, "What are you trying to do? Kill him?"
Yeah.
So there is some good jokes that
there are definitely some bits that I laugh at. But like, generally overall, I just don't like how Frasier is presented in the episode.
That's fair.
It bothers me. I think it's definitely a step from what the show usually does when it's talking about like serious issues, like someone's mental health, and like being depressed. It'll continue to make jokes because it's a comedy show, but it very rarely goes into this, like you say, like laughing at Frasier, and just the jokes are just we are watching him being pathetic, like, and I don't really enjoy that aspect.
One thing I will say is it's quite, I think they're on the last scene when they're talking about the depression, they rely quite heavily on him having gained weight and like sort of just kind of giving up and not taking care of himself, which I think people have a lot of criticism for. We saw it after Avengers with Thor. There was a big sort of backlash like with that because he puts on weight in the movie, and it's to show that he's, you know, very, very depressed and unhappy. And people had a lot of criticism to say about that, and I don't agree. If I'm being honest, because I think depression and mental health issues are things that if it's not a show that focuses on things like that has ground to actually explore it, it's a very difficult thing to show physically without having something like, you know, someone gaining weight or whatever. So I can see why people aren't happy about it, but I personally, as someone who does suffer from mental health issues as well, don't see it as a big problem. Like I don't see that, and I'm like, oh, how could they do that? They made him fat. There's not all depressed people are fat. I'm kind of like, well, it's a good way an easy way to show how unhappy someone is without like spending weeks or however many episodes exploring it, you know?
Yeah, like weight gain and weight loss, like extreme one way or the other, is a very common symptom of depression.
Yeah.
But like you never see someone in a show like this or in a movie getting really skinny and like refusing to eat because they're depressed. They always go the other way, and I think it's partly because they can more easily shoehorn in like fat jokes and sort of pile on, and I think that's probably more what I would think the issue is.
The sort of,
it's not necessarily that someone who's depressed gaining weight is unrealistic, because it's not, but it's not always the case, and I think it's sort of like an easy route to take.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, I guess that's a fair point.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't necessarily think that it's overly offensive. Like, they do need to, in some way, show physically that he is depressed. They can't just go, "Oh, Frasier's depressed," and like that's it.
That's
like exposition it as just them saying Frasier's depressed. They need to do something. But I don't know. I feel like they've done it in other ways throughout the show. There are other times when Frasier's become depressed about various things. Like, I'm thinking in there's an episode when he loses an old tape of his show from several years back, and he becomes very depressed that it's missing from his collection. And I think they explore the fact that he's depressed there without needing to go to making fat jokes. But
then I think the difference there would be, and not the making jokes part, but like the showing him physically changing would be, that's a full 25-minute episode that we get to explore it.
Yeah.
This is one 3-5 minute scene, you know? And I think that's kind of the difference, is it's a very quick and easy way to display it.
Yeah.
Which, yes, maybe we could, you know, I don't disagree that you could maybe go a bit lighter on the sort of poking fun at the fact that he's gained weight. That's maybe a bit more of an issue.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually just using that as a descriptor to show that he's depressed, I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, fine.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to do it.
No, that's true.
So, yeah, anyway. Okay, good. What did you rank it?
So I gave it a 1.
Oh, God.
I'm going to be honest. I just don't really enjoy watching the episode. I think, it bothers me a bit, these jokes that are just sort of poking fun at him. I mean, I've said before,
that's fair.
I've explained my reasons for not liking it. Like, it really just boils down to that. It makes me just not enjoy watching the episode. I feel like I would always skip over it given the opportunity. So
okay, I can't criticize you too much, because I think you've justified it. But I give it a 3.
Yeah,
I think I'm a lot more positive on it. I think even though there is a bit of change in how the humor is played in this episode, that it is more poking fun at him, it doesn't. A lot of the scenes are still quite funny.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from the contrast between the rest of the cast being so realistic and grounded about the situation, and Frasier just losing his mind.
Very exaggerated, all of his,
Yeah.
you know.
We mentioned the end as well, briefly, with Niles. So we get a bit of a teaser for the rest of how the season's going to go for him.
Yeah.
With his divorce proceedings. The last scene is him and Frasier having coffee, and Niles gets he has his divorce papers, or he says that he's
gotten off the phone with his lawyers or something.
He's on track to a quick and easy divorce, and then it cuts to the title card of denial again.
Yeah.
Poor Niles. Yeah, he's got some ride ahead of him.
He does.
Yeah. But not yet. We have Frasier's Curse up next, before we get to more Niles. Now, I'm curious how you feel about this episode, right?
Yeah.
Because I think this episode's quite similar to the previous one for me.
Yeah.
It's still very much Frasier's in this. I mean, depression. He is, even though it's sort of exaggerated at certain points, I think it's a general, he's not happy about losing his job. He's struggling to cope with it. And this kind of follows on from the previous episode, him still dealing with it and trying to find his way without his job, I guess.
Yeah.
Find out who he is without his job. And he's got an invitation to one of his old reunions, the Bryce Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I know that now.
Yeah.
After last week. And he's decided not to go because, as he says, he has a curse.
Mm-hmm.
There's a curse that rears its head whenever he gets an invitation to the reunion each year. Something bad always goes wrong in his life, and he has to go and show up to the reunion while he's in the midst of whatever horrible circumstance.
Yeah.
What does he say? Is it he was
5 years
the divorce
ago,
or
Lilith left him.
Yeah.
5 years before that was when Diane left him at the altar.
And now he's just lost his job.
Now he's lost his job.
And he goes through the episode and just various situations that he arguably did bring on himself, but he sees it obviously as this curse. He goes to a job interview and has his fly down. He makes a bit of a tit of himself by asking the interviewer to get him a cup of tea or whatever, thinking it's the assistant. Poor Mr. Ugly.
Mr. Rugley.
Mr. Ugly.
Mr. Rug.
Mr.
Rug.
The poor guy's got
very
toupee,
obviously has a toupee.
And then he goes, he's in the middle of cleaning the oven, so he's got all his down clothes on, and takes Martin's dog food, well, Eddie's dog food back to the supermarket in the trolley. And it just so happens that a very rude young man has thrown the recycling just in the regular bin. Yeah. So Frasier, doing his part, being a good citizen, tries to grab those cans and take them over to the recycling. But unfortunately, one of his old classmates sees him. So sees him in the rundown clothes with the shopping cart and the dog food and the tins, and obviously assumes that he's
homeless,
not doing too great. Yeah. So it's all these kind of just bizarre scenarios that really you could explain your way out of. Yeah. But because of, the curse, quote unquote, it just makes everything worse. And it finally ends with Martin trying to do a nice thing and telling Frasier that he has been offered a new job at one of the neighbouring... Oh, it's a TV studio, I think, rather than radio, TV isn't station. It? Yeah. And so he runs off to the reunion to boast about his big news, and it turns out that the owner of the station is one of his old classmates. Yeah. And is going to be there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so ends up at the back table singing Barbershop Quartet with the Checkmates.
The Checkmates.
I do love that. I do love the scene. I love how into it they are, the other three members, and Frasier's just like so depressed. Yeah. And so just fed up, but still singing along and still doing all the harmonies and everything. Yeah. I don't know about this episode. I gave it a very middle of the road mark, but I'm curious. I'm more curious to hear what you think about it, because you've said you really don't like this disc.
Yeah.
So I'm more interested to hear your criticisms on these episodes.
Yeah. This is a lot of these episodes. To be honest, one of the things I really dislike about them, and I think, to be honest, they all have them. Yeah, I would say they all have, or maybe with the exception of the first one, which I dislike for other reasons. There's a lot of Frasier bringing stuff on himself and just making everything really awful for himself. Yeah. And it just means that I have no sympathy for him. And the whole point, I mean, it's a sitcom, obviously. The whole point is that the characters get themselves into a situation. But when you're not rooting for the characters to get out of the situation, and there's not really an awful lot that I find that funny in the situation, I'm not going to enjoy the episode all that much. I'm just going to feel a bit kind of weird and uncomfortable watching it.
That's fair.
And some are worse than others. This one I don't think is as bad. I kind of like the setup. I think it is quite funny having the sort of job interview where everything goes wrong. I think is quite funny. And there are... No, to be honest, that's pretty much it. It's kind of
your one redeeming factor.
Sort of, it's sort of that scene, and then I don't know. That's pretty much it. Frasier convinces Roz to be his date for the reunion, and Roz gets all dolled up and gets a makeover and gets her hair done and shows up in this gorgeous dress. And there's kind of these few scenes when she's getting really annoyed. She has to she thinks she's going, and then Frasier cancels, so she leaves, and then she has to come back again when he decides he wants to go again. And she's like the same outfit but more disheveled is quite funny.
Yeah.
You know? But like, yeah, beyond that, I just don't think there's much I really enjoy about it. So I give it a 2.
2. Yeah. A 2 I can't argue with too much. I gave it a 3. Mm-hmm. I gave it, very middle of the road. And I think a lot of these episodes are, unfortunately, not great, but also not bad. Mm-hmm. I think the writers struggle to find their feet a wee bit with the change in circumstance for Frasier.
Yeah.
I don't know what the intention was. I think, is it the next disc we find out the sort of what happens, the next stage?
Oh, yeah.
Try to say it without spoiling it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's not too long.
No.
So it's hard to tell whether they had intended this to be just a short story arc for the first half of the season, mm-hmm. or if they'd planned it to be longer but realised it's actually not that funny, and gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a shame. But this episode in particular, I think, is quite similar to the first one. I think it's got a funny premise.
Yeah.
The idea that Frasier's got this curse above his head, and then he's just in increasingly bizarre situations dealing with the curse. Mm-hmm. But he does also bring it on himself, and arguably, whether you believe in the curse or not, that's the question. Mm-hmm. Because if you believe in the curse, then there's nothing he could have done. It would have gone wrong either way.
That's true.
But if you don't believe in the curse, then it's all him.
There's definitely a lot of things that whether he's cursed or not, regardless of whether this is around his reunion and whatever, like the way he goes into that job interview and starts making demands for a cup of chamomile tea with honey and lemon and all, when he's not even been offered a cup of coffee or anything. Or does he get offered a cup of coffee and then says, I would love some chamomile tea or whatever?
I think he asks, would you mind getting me a cup of tea?
Yeah.
And then says, oh, actually, better yet, make it chamomile with a bit of honey and lemon and sugar and whatever.
Yeah. I like, if I was doing a job interview and someone came in and started asking like awkward questions like that, like it's not really like making difficult demands, but I feel like that's a bit
presumptuous.
It is. I definitely wouldn't like them very much if they did that. Yeah, so I don't think it's much of a shock that he didn't get, regardless of then what else does he do? He
has his fly down.
Breaks the he has his fly down. He breaks this
it's like a wee giraffe statue.
Immediately, well, he says that it was their assuming that it was their child and then it turns out that it wasn't his child, it was his dad.
His dad after the stroke.
After the stroke. There's something he makes accidentally insults his mum as well at some point.
Yeah, he said so Mr. Rugley says that they have to get rid of Wendy, the story lady or something like that. And Frasier kind of makes a comment like, oh yeah, it's about time they got that old bag off the air. I don't think it's quite that harsh, but whatever it is he says.
And it turns out
and Mr. Rugley says, actually, she's my mother. She's very sick.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God. Yeah, he just needs to learn to keep his mouth shut, especially if he knows that there's a curse.
Yeah.
Just don't tempt the curse. Just don't push it.
Yeah. And he parked in his parking space. I mean,
parks his Beamer.
What are you gonna do? Like, come on, man.
I know, but yeah, I think it's still fun enough, and it's unique enough. If you can get past the whole having to laugh at him rather than with him, I guess. I think it's quite an enjoyable episode. It's certainly not one that I skip. So
yeah, there you go.
Just have a difference of opinions on these ones.
So you give it a 3.
I give it a 3. Yeah, I give it a 3.
Well, that's fine.
Next up, another middle of the road episode. I would say Dial M for Martin.
Yeah,
not for murder, but possibly murder if Niles gets his way.
Murder.
No, we're Scottish. You have to say it with the rolled R's.
Like Taggart. I can't do that.
Taggart.
Yeah. Is it Taggart? Yeah.
Taggart.
When they always say there's been a murder.
There's been a murder.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't roll my
R's.
I'm a bad Scotsman. I can't roll my R's.
Oh, man.
Well, like, I can sometimes, but if I try to do it, it never comes out properly, and it makes me sound like a dickhead, so...
Well, see, I was learning Russian on Duolingo as well, so you have to roll your R's for the Russian as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think my only...
That's the only similarity between Scottish and Russian.
Yeah.
Like, but
the only, like... baseline I have for that is from Star Trek, how they always that's V's and W's, isn't it? That's not R's.
Nuclear vessel.
Nuclear vessels.
Yeah.
You know, man. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Star Trek or Russian or rolling R's or anything. Yeah, dial in for Martin. So we've got Frasier and Martin are starting to get on each other's nerves. They're back at getting on each other's nerves. It's kind of a callback for 5 years earlier when they first started living together. Since Frasier is out of work and he's at home all the time, they're really getting at each other and bothering each other a lot.
Yeah.
And Martin decides that maybe it would be best for him to take some time away, so he decides to move in with Niles.
Via a suggestion from Roz.
Niles, of course, only agrees because it means that Daphne will be living with him as well. So Martin and Eddie and Daphne all move into the Montana, or temporarily. I'm assuming Daphne must do as well.
I think she does. Well, she's hanging around in the kitchen and stuff, so it's implied that she does.
Yeah. But Daphne realizes that if Martin's well enough to move into the Montana with all those stairs, that means that his hip must be well enough that he doesn't need full-time care anymore.
Yep.
So Daphne decides that it's time to move on and get herself another job, which Niles is very distraught about.
Yeah.
Causing him to take matters into his own hands and re-cripple his father.
Re-cripple is not a word I feel like I've heard very often, but yeah, it's
cripple again.
Very accurate, yeah.
So accidentally in quotes kicks his cane out from under him going down the stairs, installs a handle in the shower in Martin's ensuite bathroom that collapses as soon as he puts his weight on it, and would have split his head open had he been in the shower at the time. He waxes the floors and almost causes Martin to slip.
Eddie knocks his tooth out. Oh, poor boy.
And he warns him, you can use my bathroom, but be careful if you're using the shower, because if I run the dishwasher at the wrong time, you could be horribly scalded. So he's clearly just desperately trying to injure. He puts his
the gardening
shears upright on
his chair,
in Martin's chair. So yeah, Frasier mentions this offhand that clearly Niles is subconsciously trying to injure Martin.
Yeah.
And Martin gets a bit freaked out and decides he wants to come home, and yeah.
And all while this is going on, Frasier is ecstatic to be rid of Martin. He has got a date with a lovely underwear model.
Yeah.
Rebecca, her name is?
Rebecca, yeah.
He comes back home to the apartment all alone and she's left a message on his answering machine.
Yeah.
And he pours a glass of wine and sits in the chair and then presses play.
Yeah.
Sits and savors the moment, which I think is quite funny.
Yeah.
I can't say I would do any different.
Sits back in his Wasili.
In his Wasili, yeah. And yeah, it kind of, the whole episode culminates with Martin running out of Niles' apartment, freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Interrupts Frasier right as he's about to actually have his date.
Yeah.
And then as they step out onto the lift, onto the elevator, Daphne is actually the one to re-cripple him. Ostensibly by accident. But yeah, who knows? Maybe she really wanted to stay with the Crane family.
Maybe she just wanted to stay with Niles.
Maybe she wanted to stay with Niles.
We don't know.
But
this is something that I've not. Yeah, I kind of lost track of mentioning it, but I think there definitely have been a few more hints in the past.
Well, we had first date
on
the last disc, which is very, heavily implied that she she loves him.
Yeah.
And a little bit more than a friend,
Yeah, she was, very close with him and very willing to sacrifice her day to go and help him prepare for his date. And yeah, there have been times I've noticed when Niles kind of comes into the apartment and makes a joke about Frasier, makes a joke about Martin, and the camera cuts to Daphne laughing quite hard at his jokes, and I hadn't really noticed it before, but it's like, just look how, like, she clearly finds him very funny. I think there's a lot here that suggests that she really quite fancies Niles.
Back. Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, well, keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so after she re-cripples Martin, I'm going to keep using that as much as I can. Frasier is pretty irate. He was getting comfortable being a bachelor again. Tries to get Martin up, tells him to suck it up and just get out of his apartment. Right as the elevator door opens, and the lovely underwear model Rebecca sees how he treats his father and runs away.
Yeah.
Poor Frasier.
Oh boy.
So they're back to normal by the end of the episode, after Martin's short stay at Niles' apartment. And yeah, we get a pretty decent episode out of it.
I think it's
honestly.
All right.
I think it's
all right.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's probably one of the better ones on the disc.
I think so. I think it's my favorite on the disc.
Okay.
And that, although that isn't saying an awful lot, because as you can see, I don't rate the rest of these very highly. But yeah, I was tempted to give it higher, but honestly, it's mostly. I don't think it's as good as a lot of other episodes. It's just a lot better, in my opinion, than the rest of this disc. So I was really tempted to give it a 4. And then I thought, no, I don't think it's as good as 4s in other seasons or later on. I think it's really on par with 3s.
Yeah,
it's 3. Definitely... I think it's deserving of a 3.
This is a very 3-heavy disc. This is a very...
for you, maybe.
Well, okay,
Not for me.
For me. A very middle-of-the-road opening disc, which is a shame, but because some of the episodes have pretty good premises. This episode as well is quite fun. Change of scenery for Martin. There's a lot they did do with it, but there was a lot more they could have done with it. The next episode's good as well, got a fun premise. The first 2 are good. It doesn't feel like they're quite into it, So, yeah, we're waiting a bit longer. But did I say what I gave it?
I'm assuming you gave it a 3 as well.
I gave it a 3 as well.
Yeah,
I gave it a 3 as well.
Okay.
One thing I noticed, though, about this episode is that we've not really addressed Martin's treatment and physical therapy a lot.
Yeah.
There's occasionally scenes where he's being treated by Daphne and they're doing their exercises and stuff, when they're hanging around the apartment. But Martin it's not really addressed that he is a disabled man.
Yeah.
Like his hip is a disability for him. And it's not really something that comes up a whole lot. There's a couple more times they sort of address it in more detail.
Yeah, they do occasionally but it's mostly like offhanded comments. We've never really had episodes about it. Yeah. Really. The last thing I can think of is there's one end of season 4 or start of season 5 when Martin's still with Sherry. There's a little, it's not even really a B plot, but he gives up on his exercises, or he's too busy for his exercises because he's going to see Sherry.
Yeah.
And then when they were being amorous,
physically intimate.
Yeah, his hip stiffened up and he couldn't perform.
Yeah.
So immediately came back. Oh, I know what it is. It's Roz's turn. I'm remembering what episode that's in now. It's in Roz's turn. That's the little B plot. And he kind of comes back and asks Daphne to help him with his exercises again. So it's like we get the hint that he's getting better, but there's still a ways to go.
Yeah.
And then it's not mentioned for season and a half.
Yeah.
And then we get into it here where it's like another year and a half's progress. Clearly he is getting a lot better now.
But then it's kind of, I mean, Daphne was very willing to accept that he is getting better here, but doesn't really comment on it again.
Yeah.
I don't think she ever really does.
No, I don't know.
Until the end of the show, there's no real... no real conversation surrounding whether Martin's treatment is making him better or not.
Yep.
Which is, it's just something I noticed. It's not particularly, it doesn't impact the episode one way or another, I think. It's just, it's kind of nice that this, that is the main driving plot point for the start of the season.
Yeah.
But it's not something that comes up particularly often.
No, it's not something I had considered before now, to be honest. But you're right. Like, it's a bit strange that there aren't really any plot lines. There's no episodes that are just about Martin's disability.
Well, I
can't really
there's
think of
one.
any.
There's one where we find out what happened.
Oh, well, yeah. There's one with a
sort of flashback episode.
Yeah. But I mean, like, kind of.
But in terms
presently, there's nothing about. There's no episodes specifically about his recovery or his exercises or.
That's true.
Anything like that. This is probably the closest we get where we start to explore the idea of how much better he's getting.
Yeah. It's nice to see. Glad that he's doing doing better.
Yeah.
Yep. Hot ticket.
Before we get to hot ticket,
we don't have hot ticket.
Before we go to
I'll hold
hot
my
ticket,
breath.
you got it.
It's fine.
There is a little interesting fact about this one.
Yep.
So this is the first appearance of Enzo, Moose's son, playing Eddie.
Oh wow!
This is the first time that Enzo appeared. You can breathe. You don't have to hold your breath.
Thank you.
Yes, there's when. I can't remember exactly when it is. I think it's after Daphne says that she's not going to be moving into Niles' apartment with Martin. And Martin kind of says like, "Oh well, it'll just be me and Eddie," and then Eddie jumps up onto Niles' seat.
Oh yeah,
and just kind of jumps up onto his lap. And you see Niles kind of looking a bit sad that now he's stuck with Martin and Eddie and doesn't get Daphne. And apparently that's the first time that Enzo actually appears on screen. That was his first appearance.
I didn't realize it was so late in the show.
No,
we're almost halfway through.
Yes,
I thought Enzo was sort of in the sidelines.
Yeah. Well, presumably they must have been. It must have taken a little bit of training.
That's true. I think that's true.
I think Moose was bred specifically after the show started to get another dog to look as close as possible. So, it would have taken at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
Plus however long it would have been before they decided to do that, knowing the show was successful. So plus another little while for training and stuff.
I guess 6 years makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
So there you go. Okay,
right.
Now
we
can move on to hot ticket. Hot ticket. Now you can move on to hot ticket.
We got hot ticket. Okay, right. Hot ticket. Pretty simple premise in this one. There's not a whole lot to it. Frasier and Niles are wanting to go and see a play.
Yeah.
The name of the play escapes me, but it stars Sir Trevor Ainsley, famous actor. He's not a real actor, I don't think. He's fictional in the world of Frasier.
Yeah.
But very revered, sort of Shakespearean style actor, and this is his final performance. He's bowing out after this play. So, of course, Frasier and Niles have to go and see it. They have to be seen seeing the play.
Yeah.
But they got the wrong tickets. They missed the matinee showing.
Yeah.
And turn up in the evening instead. Matinee's like afternoon, right?
Matinee's got like late afternoon. I think it's probably like 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah. So they miss the show they're meant to go to. Turn up in the evening. Obviously, don't get let in, and then they struggle to get replacement tickets. And their pride gets in the way. They refuse to sit in the cancellation queue.
Yeah.
To try and get tickets. They refuse to admit to their high society friends that they didn't manage to get tickets. And it's all just a bit embarrassing for them, to be perfectly honest.
It is.
And I think this is the stuff that you don't like as well.
Yeah.
The whole sort of just admit you're wrong, But it leads to some funny moments.
Yeah.
I like Niles in this episode. I think Niles is great.
Niles having to pretend to smoke is very funny. They run into their... he's got, kind of miming how he's trying to hold the cigarette. They run into a couple of their they decide they're going to go and try out the cancellation line to see if they can get some last minute tickets from someone else who's cancelled, and that's when they run into a couple of their snobby high society friends who are aghast that they're in the cancellation line.
I know.
Oh, how terrible. And they need to, but of course they can't get in because they don't have tickets, so they need to find a reason to stand around outside, and they decide to pretend that Niles is a smoker and he just needs to stay outside for one more cigarette. He kind of, I need to learn to smoke in the next hour, and he goes and buys his pack of cigarettes and sort of he keeps puffing them and holding it at different angles.
He's trying to get it perfect.
It's very silly, and I do enjoy that.
I like him fighting with Roz as well. Roz shows up to the play. She's dating Niles' dentist, isn't it? Niles' dentist, coincidentally, and they've got tickets to the play, and Niles tries to steal them from Roz. Mm-hmm. And he distracts him by saying, "Oh, look, a whole group of naked men."
Yeah.
And I love their relationship, man. I love how they tease each other.
Mm-hmm.
Roz obviously has none of it and kicks him in the shins to let go of the tickets, but I think that's very funny. Mm-hmm. And I think the scene at the end is sweet as well.
Yeah.
They meet Sir Trevor in the after party, the bar or wherever.
They're going out for supper. Yeah.
Afterwards, and they obviously, because they didn't get into the play, they have to kind of like fake the knowledge of it to him directly, and Frasier does a pretty sweet job and makes him feel pretty good about himself that he's given a great performance, even though Frasier's lying through his teeth.
Yeah.
Which I quite like. It's sweet, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it justifies all the lying and being too proud to go and figure out a way to see the play, but it kind of, it makes it seem more bearable almost.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to give Sir Trevor what he needed, in the final play of his career.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like the last scene. It's sweet.
Yeah. It is right. And I like Sir Trevor. So he's played by an actor called Fritz Weaver.
Yeah.
Who I recognized, but I couldn't think what from. And then I realized that he was in Creepshow. I looked him up on IMDb and I saw that he was in Creepshow and a bunch of other anthology horror stuff. He was in The Twilight Zone and The Night Gallery, which was the other Rod Serling one, where it's like it always opens with him and it's like all the paintings sort of like hanging up in this like black void.
Oh, the ones
it's parodied, like it's
the
parodied in the Open to the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror,
yeah.
when there's like the dogs playing poker.
And
it's like that was The Night Gallery. And he was in he did episodes of that and episodes of The Twilight Zone and stuff.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
He's got a very distinctive sort of look about him.
He does, yeah. He's quite sort of tall and thin and sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, just his mannerisms and stuff are very distinctive.
Yeah.
Like, you could you'd picture him exactly as an old Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
A proper, thespian.
Yeah. And he's good, and he does well in this. It's a nice little guest appointment.
Yeah. I like it. Was he enough to give this a bit of a better rating?
Yes.
Okay.
In that I didn't give it a 1.
Yeah, all right.
Because of Sir Trevor and because I think it's a little bit of David Hyde Pierce's physical acting when he's like
doing the smoking
cigarette. I give it a 2, but like there's really not anything else about it that I think is especially funny. We get a little side plot with not really even. I mean, Martin shows up very briefly because he's read a review for the play, but he keeps confusing it with Pride of the Yankees, which is quite funny. And then there's a little B plot with Daphne Moon's Seattle. Where she's got a picture with her bum hanging out in the newspaper.
Yeah.
But like, there's really not anything about it that I find especially funny. It's just a lot of Frasier and Niles being too proud to go and see the play.
Yeah.
And also being incredibly stupid about going about seeing the play. There's also a huge plot hole in this that always bothers me. The whole thing is that they can't admit to their high society friends that they've not got tickets to see this play because anybody who's anybody is going to see the play, and then they call up all of their high society friends trying to scrounge last minute tickets.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't
surely
really think of that. Yeah,
they call and it's like, whoever the head of the opera board or whatever to see if she has spare tickets, and then they call someone else, and and it's like, maybe they were lying and saying, I need tickets for my friend who he poor thing couldn't get them or whatever, but like they're pretty much confessing that they didn't have it. They could have just stayed home. They had tickets. for a showing that they missed. They could very easily have just torn the ticket stubs off. And then if someone said, "Did you see it?" You go like, "Yeah, look, I've seen it. Look, I've got my ticket stubs. Ooh, I saw it in the matinee."
Yeah. You're putting too much thought into this.
I am, but the whole thing falls apart when you think about it for 2 seconds, you know?
That's why you don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, I give it another 3.
Yeah.
I give it another 3. I think it's, pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's difficult because the first 4 episodes in this disc are pretty, they can be boiled down to, they're pretty good, but they're not great.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts.
Yeah.
On it. It's pretty good, but it's not great. It's got some nice moments, not many great moments.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I don't think it's deserving of any lower than a 3. I think you're picking a bit too many holes. Maybe
too
many holes.
Maybe I am.
Well, I've still got 2 episodes. I can cross my fingers. You've ranked these a bit higher.
Do whatever you want, man. You can hold on to your hope. It's not going to get you any further.
Okay. Well, first, Do No Harm is the 5th episode on the disc.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lovely guest star.
Yeah.
The lovely Terry Hatcher.
I like Terry Hatcher.
I like Terry Hatcher as well. I think she's a very good actress.
Mm-hmm. This must have been around the time that she was in Lois and Clark, the Superman show.
Yeah,
it would have been what, late 90s?
Yeah, it would have been. And
obviously shortly before, where she was in Desperate Housewives.
Desperate Housewives, I think. Yeah.
But that would have been
2004 or 5.
I was around the time Frasier ended.
So it was a wee bit later.
A while later.
But very conventionally attractive woman, and that is part of the opening joke in this. She is Duke's daughter.
Yeah. Duke
being Martin's old, still drinking buddy.
Yeah.
But the old owner of Duke's, if you remember that far back.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to go by the Ugly Duckling when they went out on camping trips. When
the Ugly Dukeling.
Dukeling.
Yeah,
I didn't put the inflection on it. Yeah, sorry. The Ugly Dukeling. And so she's obviously grown up to be very attractive. Doesn't really say successful, but they go to like art galleries and stuff. So there's obviously quite a lot of similarities between her and Frasier, in terms of the art and whatever other nonsense they enjoy.
She's shown to be quite sophisticated.
That's the word, sophisticated. Yeah. So Martin and Duke want to set up her and Frasier, and they do successfully, and they're both quite taken by each other. But it quickly falls apart when Frasier, Niles points it out, but Frasier is concerned that she's more interested in him as a psychiatrist than as a boyfriend, because she has a lot of phobias and anxieties and various mental health issues that I think she says she can't afford a psychiatrist, or there's an offhanded comment, isn't there?
Yeah, she makes a comment about how she used to have a psychiatrist but doesn't see him anymore, and says like, "Oh well, who could afford it?"
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it is easy to assume that maybe that's why she's doing it.
Yeah. To be fair, I think it's played a bit strange because, in my opinion, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
That she is using him. Mm-hmm. When you first see them together, and she's giving him a massage and talking about one of her dreams or something. I can't remember which one it is at that point, but talking about one of her issues, and Frasier says, "Oh, I don't really fancy analyzing it at the moment. Could we talk about it later or something?" Yeah. She stops the massage, gets very distant, and then decides to go home.
Yeah.
But as soon as Frasier starts talking about her issues again, she comes right back.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a stretch to assume that's the situation.
Not at all.
And that eventually leads to Frasier breaking up with her. I would argue rightfully so. But he and Niles and Martin all have a bit of a chat and decide that he's maybe being a bit too harsh.
Yeah.
She gives him a second chance. Again, maybe because it's cheaper than getting a psychiatrist. Who knows? They decide to go on a trip together, and pretty much the same thing happens, but the opposite way around. He realizes that it's actually he is using her as well.
Yeah,
because he's not been able to stretch his psychiatric muscles.
I know.
For the last few weeks or months, or I don't
However long
really know how long it's been since he got fired. So he's quite enjoying treating her as well. But I don't know. Obviously it kind of comes down to Frasier's weird like morals and whatever. But I don't think it's that wrong. If they both addressed that issue,
yeah.
If they both sat down and said, "Look, you've got issues. I'm able to help with them," is that a deal breaker for our relationship?
Yeah.
I don't think it would be for me if it was like an agreed upon thing.
Yeah, because we start off. I mean, the reason they break up the first time is because Frasier thinks that it's so wrong that he's being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And the second time they break up is because he's worried that he's taking advantage of Marie.
Yeah.
But surely if they talked and they could, if they just communicated properly, like as I'm sure this
adults.
is something I've said before so many times about Frasier, but if he just talked through what he was thinking with these people he was with, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be able to sort them without issues. Yeah. And who knows, maybe she was just using him for free therapy. But I think there's a lot going on. Like, they clearly enjoy spending time together, out.
Yeah, you definitely get that impression.
They talk about going out to the symphony. They talk about going out to art galleries, and they seem to be having a nice date together before it even comes up that Marie has these mental health issues.
Yeah.
And even then, it starts out as just like minor OCD and a fear of heights.
Yeah,
which is
it's not really.
That's not that serious.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't. When it's multiple things at once, it's maybe more concerning. And I'm saying this as someone who is not a psychiatric professional.
Yeah.
But having a bit of a compulsion, a little bit of a sort of this, I don't want to say minor OCD because I don't really have a gauge
I know what you mean.
How serious it might be. But, liking to keep things in straight lines and being a bit concerned about touching doorknobs isn't that serious. Having a fear of heights isn't all that uncommon. Like, it's maybe more extreme for her than it is in other people, but fear of heights is pretty normal.
Yeah.
I know that if I was going into Frasier's apartment, I'd quite happily go out on the balcony. I would not stick my head over.
Yeah.
That would really freak me out. Yeah. I'm not big on heights. And then the idea of having a recurring dream and having a not very good relationship with her mother, like, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of people like that. So the idea that he's like, she is mentally unstable and I'm just treating her as a patient is taking it a bit
It's maybe a bit much. I think I kind of get the impression, and I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but I kind of get the impression that it's more than just the things that are shown.
Yeah. That
it is kind of implied that she does have quite a lot of like phobias and compulsions and whatever else.
Yeah.
So, if we go by what we see, then I think you're absolutely spot on. That those things are really, in the grand scheme of mental health issues, probably not the highest and probably not the most impactful on someone's life.
Yeah.
They say that they're able to go out and have dinner and go to the museum and whatever, and she's obviously able to function at the cafe and go out and see things. But kind of reading between the lines, the way they play her kind of seems like there is more going on. There are more issues. I don't know. Maybe it's just me reading into it a bit more, but I don't know. Yeah.
I suppose it kind of goes back into what I was talking about with Good Grief, where they would be very hard pressed to show anything more serious than they have without it verging into potentially offensive territory.
Yeah.
Like, the way that they're portraying mental health is definitely, it's a difficult thing to do, getting the balance between showing it in a way that is kind of realistic and you're still able to joke about it without it being offensive, and not going too far that it's either not funny anymore, or if you're laughing about it, it's just making fun of someone's mental health problems.
I mean, I would argue they don't go over the line in this episode.
No, I don't think they do.
No.
I think, but I
They could, yeah. They could.
I'm here saying, oh, like it's not that serious. These things that she has, they probably wouldn't be able to show anything much more serious than that without it being insensitive.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think, did we speak about it on the podcast? I can't remember if we did, but I'm thinking of portrayal, like the OCD that she has is things like lining up or cutlery. Yeah. And Frasier makes a joke about, she says like, oh, how did you know? And he says like, oh, your asparagus was all in a line or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's pretty harmless and it's not, making fun. But then I'm thinking specifically of a great example in Scrubs with Michael J. Fox. Yeah. And they have this whole episode where he's portrayed as a he's over a few episodes, isn't it? He's a guest doctor that comes in.
A two-parter, yeah.
Yeah, and he has really, really serious OCD, and it's a fantastic episode. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that sticks in your head. They end the episode. It's a really somber ending. He's unable to leave the prep room in the hospital because his hands just don't feel clean enough. Yeah. And it's like that's a really accurate portrayal of someone with like crippling OCD. Yeah. Something that really, really badly affects you. So it's not that it's not possible to be done. Yeah. But it's obviously difficult on a show like Frasier where it is more, without going into like a very special episode territory, you're going to struggle to portray things like that and keep it more lighthearted, Yeah. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Well, there we are. In the end, they don't end up together anyway.
Yeah, as most of Frasier's relationships end.
Yep.
So, give it to me. What'd you get?
I give it a 1. I'm sorry. I like, honestly, the one thing I like about this is I think Terry Hatcher's really good.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to say that I was surprised by how good of an actress she was, because that's unfair. I have no reason to think that she isn't a good actress. Mm-hmm. I feel like she plays the character in a very unique way. It doesn't just feel like the character is the same as she is in anything else she's been in. Yeah. Like, yeah. I think that's the sign of a good actor, is when you see them and they have a very clear, distinct personality that is very different from either what they're like in real life or other characters they've played or whatever.
That's fair. I was a little less harsh, but I think it's still the weakest on the disc for me. Yeah. So I gave it a 2 this time. I think, it just doesn't do it for me. Yeah. There's just not enough humor, and there's not enough plot to keep me engaged. Like, there's a couple of funny little jokes, mostly at the expense of Marie's sort of issues. Yeah. And Frasier just being a bit of a muppet. Yep. There's it now, right? Is it this episode or is it the next episode that there's Roz is getting the coffee and coming off nursing?
Oh, I can't remember. I think it's this one.
I think it's this one as well, but I can't remember. It's one of the 2 episodes. And there's scenes at Cafe Nervosa when Roz just can't get herself together. She's struggling looking after baby Alice. So she comes in, has got blueberries in her teeth and coffee or I think baby spit on her shirt, wearing mismatched shoes. She's going to a job interview and just can't keep it together. And then we see her later on in the episode. She can't have coffee because she's still nursing. Yeah. But then later on in the episode, she's stopped nursing and has her coffee, and she's just really perky and energized.
Yeah. Very, very energetic.
It's really funny. I love that contrast. I think it is this episode because
Now that I'm thinking about it, because I remember her leaving and Martin coming in. Yeah. And then that's when they set up the whole.
That's they talk about. Marie,
I was just talking with Duke and Marie's moved back and blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there we go. That's probably the lowest episode on the disc combined score between us. But oh well. I'm trying to think if that might end up being the worst episode on the whole series.
Maybe. I'm not sure if there's another one that I would give a 1, but I think he would also give a 1.
Yeah, we will see. But for now, Final episode on the disc, Secret Admirer.
Yeah.
Far more fond of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a nice episode to round off the disc. We're a bit more into the plot-heavy side of things.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of teased at the end of the first episode about Niles and his divorce from Maris, and this is continuing on that. He has got a financial settlement. He is hoping that Maris will sign it. He is pursuing that.
Yeah.
And then, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Frasier starts receiving some gifts from a secret admirer. Admirer.
Secret admirer.
You gotta roll the R's. Admirer.
Secret admirer.
Secret admirer.
Cigarette armorer.
Yeah. And this kind of devolves into Frasier being just the worst. Just the absolute worst. Like, is this the worst we've seen him?
Maybe. Very possibly.
In terms of his relationship, how he treats women in his relationship, I think it could be. So, alongside Niles and Maris' divorce, Frasier is dating a lovely new lady called Nancy. They met at KCL. She's started working again, I think she says at the start. Yeah, she's got a new job. Yeah. Frasier's obviously not, but they've kept in touch and they start dating, and she seems nice and friendly. They have a great little conversation. It's very cheeky, it's very fun. And they make plans and whatnot. As soon as Frasier starts receiving the secret admirer gifts, the first one being, is it a watch in his squash bag?
The first one's cufflinks.
Cufflinks.
And then the second is a pocket watch.
And the watch second, yeah. So he immediately assumes, obviously, that someone is in love with him. Which, I mean, I guess if you receive a package like that, you might. But instead of accepting that he is with Nancy and in a pretty decent relationship that could potentially go somewhere, he decides to go and phone all his old girlfriends and start chasing them and see if any of them are still interested in him and sending him nice gifts and whatever. Yeah. And it's just horrible. Poor Nancy, man. Yeah. What an awful thing to have to go through. Even when they have their date on the Friday or Saturday night or whenever, it's implied that it's like right before the date. Yeah. Like right before she arrives, he's been dropping off notes to a couple of ladies in the building who dated once or twice. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God.
So stupid. He's so stupid.
I know. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Like this.
I hate it.
I
hate it.
This episode kind of makes me... It's one of the ones that just makes me so much less sympathetic for Frasier on the whole. Yeah. Because there are so many episodes when he's complaining about like, oh, it's been so long since I've had a date. Oh, it's been so long since I've had sex. Oh, women never seem to like me. Oh, woe is me. I can't get a fair shake. Why do people not like me? I'm such a nice guy. And like, you know, he's given it all that. And then he meets these women that are very clearly attracted to him. And every time he manages to balls it up by acting like a complete dickhead. Yeah. And it's just, you know...
I know. I think I know.
even in episodes where we don't actively see him do something wrong, like there's one, I can't remember when it is. We don't see the date or see the woman that he's dating, but he gets set up on a blind date, someone that Roz knows, and then apparently during the date she decides to skip the after dinner jazz club or something. Yeah. And says like, oh, wait, you know, I'm sorry, I have an early meeting in the morning. We have to, whatever. And the chef says, do you want dessert? And she said, oh, God, no. And it's like, it comes across as, oh, poor Frasier. These women just won't give him a shot. But it's like, now that we see how he actually treats women when he's dating them, you assume that he probably did something horrible, like hit on the waitress or, I don't know, shit himself during the date. Like, he's probably just done something wrong that's making people not like him.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it's the first Montana episode, by the way.
Is it?
In case you're wondering.
Oh, it is
Because
the first Montana episode
Stephanie.
because he winds up going with
lands
Stephanie.
right on his lands right on his lap.
Yeah,
perfect woman. But yeah, no, I don't disagree. And I think you're right. All of these episodes sort of add up to getting a good idea of who Frasier is behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And sometimes with open doors, I guess. We do see it occasionally, like in this episode. And it's just, it is. It is just difficult to feel sorry for him, because if you're going to act like that, then you're absolutely deserving of whatever you get in return, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no sympathy from him. However, I do like some of the moments when he's phoning his old girlfriends. He phones, is it Tatiana, I think?
Yeah.
He phones and he's like, or she phones and he calls her back and he's like, sorry I missed you, but the question is, did you miss me? And I just love that. Just some of the wordplay stuff is really funny. But the Niles side of things is nice. I like seeing the more sincere side of Niles.
Yeah.
You know, it turns out, we didn't even finish going through the plot, but it turns out that these gifts were actually meant for Niles. There was just a series of misunderstandings. Their gym bags were the same. The waitress, by the way, the waitress in Cafe Nervosa has the best voice.
She does.
She's got this lovely, like, raspy voice.
Yeah.
I love it.
I looked her up to see if she was in anything else.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anything else that I particularly recognized, but she was in like a Nickelodeon TV series quite recently.
Oh.
So obviously she's still going.
Good.
And it's good for her.
Yeah. Good
getting
for
work.
Her.
Waitress with lovely voice.
Yeah. And she obviously just mistakes the two Dr. Cranes, you know. And Niles is sort of taken aback by this. I think David Hyde Pierce does a really good job of showing like a man who's sort of
clearly very offended.
Well, offended and sort of just conflicted on what to do, you know. And he decides, against Martin's advice, to just confront Maris and say, no, we're divorcing. You can't. I didn't even say it was from Maris. They were from Maris, the special gifts. Yeah. Sorry, I said there were two Niles, but not.
There were two Niles from Maris.
From Maris. Trying to convince him not to go through with the divorce and reconcile, I guess. But Niles is too far gone. He's really conflicted in what to do, but he knows that he can't lead her on. So confronts her about it, and in return he gets sent a final package with a single nickel in it, which is what, 10 cents, 5 cents.
I can never remember. There's nickels and dimes, which are 5 and 10 cents, but I can't remember which is which.
And some shredded paper, which turns out to be their divorce settlement.
Yeah.
What's the rhyme? It's roses are red, your heart is fickle. When I'm done with you, all you'll have left is this nickel.
Savage.
It is brutal. Like, that's proper. Like, yeah. I almost admire the brutality of it. But poor Niles. He's got an uphill struggle ahead of him for the next few episodes.
He really does.
But I like this episode, and I think, again, it's a difficult one to quantify why I like it. I think it is mostly just due to, well, David Hyde Pierce's performance, but just the whole situation with Niles and the divorce, and following that and seeing what it would be like in that situation.
Yeah, I really like seeing Niles stand up for himself in this episode.
That as well, yeah.
I think this is maybe the first time that we really see him. I mean, it's not the first time that he has done it, as we know, we've had it mentioned, but just, and again, we don't actually see the scene where he confronts Maris, because they can't show Maris on camera, because she's some kind of hideous pit fiend or whatever. But you see Niles very angry and storms out to say, I need to go and talk to Maris. And people are kind of saying, like, just, like, take a minute and cool off and talk to her rationally, or it's going to backfire, which is what happens. But, you know, he's got a fire under him. He's grown a pair, and he's going out to give Maris what for, you know, and good for him, I think.
I don't disagree. I think Martin is right, though, as per usual. He does kind of say, you know, if you do this, you're going to embarrass her. She's not the kind of person who can be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Give it a few days, let her cool off, then, you know, advance again and see if you can get the settlement agreed.
Yeah.
Martin's always the voice of reason, man. You know, he knows what's up.
Yeah.
I almost dread to ask what you gave this episode.
I'm sorry. I give it a 1.
Another 1, man.
Another 1.
No.
It's just... I just really hate Frasier in this episode.
So do I, but
He's
there's still
so
something
stupid.
funny about it.
It's like he even admits to it at the end when he says, like, oh, she got really annoyed at me because I was pursuing other women. And I say, well, how did she find out? And he goes, oh, well, I pursued one of them while we were on the date. And it's like he even has the self-awareness to know that what he's doing is horrible, and he continues to do it.
I think it's almost like this episode, he goes so far that it's just funny to watch. You just have to watch the train wreck, you know? You just have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you know there's no way out of it. You just, I don't know. I gave it a 4. I like this episode. I think it's a really good episode. I really like it. I think it's definitely the strongest on the disc for me. In terms of plot, with Niles and Maris, I think it's very strong emotionally. The plot with Frasier and Nancy is fun and sweet until it's not, and then it's just so ridiculous and maddening that you just kind of have to enjoy it, you know. So yeah, I rank that the highest.
Yeah. What did you give it?
Oh, 4.
A 4.
I give it a 4.
That I think we have had one before where I think I gave it a 4 and you gave it a 1.
We've not had a full 5 on 1
We've not had a 5 on 1. But yeah, so it's a controversial one.
Yeah, definitely. I could maybe meet you slightly lower, maybe go to a 3, but there's no way it's any lower than a 3 for me.
You don't need to compromise.
I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm just saying, in theory,
yeah,
if we were to try and find a common ground, you know, I would put it down a little, but there's no way I could give it a 1.
No.
Nah, not a chance.
Okay, well, there you go.
You're a fiend. You're a fiend. You're a 1 fiend. Giving all these 1s right out of the bat on season 6.
I know.
Do you have any highlights?
I do.
Do you have any moments that you would...
I do. You know, I had one just a second ago, and now I'm needing to run through it in my head.
Forgot
again what I'm... Oh, actually, you know what I'm going to give it to? And it is a scene in Secret Admirer. After I've just been complaining about it, there's one bit that I really like. When they're in Cafe Nervosa and Frasier has just received his second gift, this pocket watch, and it's in a nice, lovely gift box with all of this shredded paper, like padding it. And Martin starts saying, "Oh, it's a shame it's not bubble wrap. You haven't lived until you've seen Eddie go at a sheet of bubble wrap." And he keeps going, "Poppity pop pop pop," and impersonating Eddie attacking the bubble wrap. And he kind of goes on, and he just keeps talking about Eddie playing with bubble wrap. And then it suddenly cuts back to Niles on the other side of the table. Just no expression on his face at all. Just completely deadpan. Just looking at his dad. And it's very funny.
I do like,
It's very funny. I like both John Mahoney doing that and being so exaggerated about it, and then just cutting to Niles with no expression on his face. It's very funny.
Yeah, I do like it. I don't really know if I have a single highlight from this disc. I think there's a few moments that I quite enjoy, so I'm just going to pick one of them. There's no one standout, I don't think. As I've said, like, most of these episodes are quite middle of the road. they're not really that standout.
Mm-hmm.
But in Good Grief, we have the fan club.
Yeah.
Who turn up, and we're introduced to the first two, the young boy, and then this is sort of an older woman who come in, and then there's this other creepy old man with a flash camera who sort of lurks outside the apartment.
Yeah.
And Frasier's kind of edging him in, kind of says like, it's okay, don't be afraid, you can come into the flat. And he like runs up to Frasier like, this is great, and flashes him in the face.
Yeah.
And then later on in the episode, after they watch a tape for the rally that the three of them held, that was just a total embarrassment. And Frasier goes through to the kitchen and calls Niles through. And the camera, like, sort of, it's a weird sort of how it pans, but it pans as Frasier walks, and then it stops on Niles and this creepy old guy, the old fan, and they're both having this like staring contest with each other,
looking at each other.
Niles is sort of like shocked at what he's doing, and this old man just has this like glaring look, staring into Niles' soul, and I don't know, it's just really funny. I just love it.
Yeah.
It's just silent. They don't even say anything to each other, but I do like it. I don't know what else I would give it to on this desk.
Yeah.
Roz's outfit in Frasier's Curse.
Yeah.
She cleans up real nice.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't even need to clean up to look real nice, to be fair. Or the waitress with a raspy voice. I do like that voice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Start of season 6.
A
little bit disappointing on the whole. I'm pretty sure you're going to drag down those averages.
I'm sorry. On the bright side, we can only go up from here.
That is,
in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. However, you might have just given us the lowest ranked disc yet.
Might have done.
Quite
well have
possibly.
done. Because, I mean, it was quite a lot of... I think we've only got a couple that are under 3 on average. And that's been a few
3.
ones for me.
I think it's
ones and
go right
twos,
down.
and
we'll need to have a look. We'll need to have a look at season 5 as well. I realise we've not.
We didn't do the thing.
We've not looked at the rankings for season 5. But we'll get that done shortly.
We'll get that out before the bonus episode comes out.
Well, we're recording this very, very far in advance.
We are.
So I'm sure it will be out, and you'll have forgotten about it by now.
You're going off to Nodnall.
Nodnall
for your holiday.
Am I going to Nodnall? Just south of Bulgaria?
No, capital of Bulgaria. Nodnall.
Just south of Bosnia. We should do a Red Dwarf podcast.
Red Dwarf would be a good podcast, actually. That'd be funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being here.
Thank you again for having me.
And to all you lovely listeners, thank you for joining us for yet another season. I hope you will stick around. I hope you have a great day, good mental health, and thank you for listening. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.